June 13th, 2026, Porch update from Kurt Fankhauser. Had a really nice day for the car show yesterday. Hope everybody had fun. They had really good weather. I wasn't there, I was somewhere else. But I want to talk to you about Bucyrus's financial situation that I've been saying for years now is Bucyrus is probably $1 million behind, $500,000 to $1 million behind revenue wise annually to keep the city running, and nobody wants to believe it, but I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on here, since this is a channel of truth and nobody seems to want to talk about certain things. So what's going on? Well, Bucyrus has had increased expenses every year and a decline in, well, the revenue base technically is still going up, but it's not keeping up with inflation. And actually, I wasn't the one that first brought this up. It was former Mayor Reeser. So his hands are clean by he had warned the council and the city about this, and they didn't want to do anything. So how do we know Bucyrus is going broke? Because the state auditor came in and said everything's fine in early 2024. Well, what's your definition of fine? Okay, so what's going on here is, okay, look, take a time lapse back into like when Bucyrus was really prospering, okay, in the 1970s and stuff. I mean, look at everything that was built in Bucyrus in the 70s. Okay, you had a new city hall was built, a new North End fire station was built, the current YMCA out by the fairgrounds was built. Okay, all these things were being built because Bucyrus was, you know, the population was increasing, and it was just, the sky was the limit. How far can this city grow? Well, things started to slow down in the early 90s, and pretty much all the censuses after that from the 1990 census have been declining. So what is contributing to that? Well, I think the reason Bucyrus was growing so much earlier, the decades earlier, was the baby boom population, and the baby boomers were all having kids, and you know, that definitely made the population jolt up. But what's going on now is, you know, the baby boomers are dying off. Who's replacing them? Nobody, really. I mean, look how many, every generation after the baby boom generation is having less and less large family sizes, and you know, there's multiple people in my generation that said they're not even going to have kids. So who's going to replace all of that tax base if there's no younger people? And so fast forward to today. Okay, Bucyrus has lost several large manufacturing plants. They've lost General Electric, Swan, Baja, BPT. You know, look at all the jobs there that are gone. And, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jobs that if those jobs were still here, you know, we probably wouldn't be having this financial scenario that the city is facing. And how do we know that the city is facing a financial situation? Because the state auditor says everything's fine. Well, what the state auditor was looking at is money coming in overall with all of the city's different funds and the general fund. It just wholly everything, there is money coming in. I guess some of these cities get totally far gone, and you know, that's when they're really sending off the alarms. But how do we know? How do I know that the city is going broke? Okay, well, the best way you can look at something when something is going broke, I don't care if it's a city or if it's a business or an individual or something, is when they start doing deferred maintenance on its assets. And well, what assets does the city have? The city owns real estate, it owns buildings, it owns City Hall, you know, fire department, other buildings and things. And the city owns a lot of vehicles for the fire department, the police department especially, and that's what I'm going to be concentrating on right here. So when somebody's going broke, this is all basic stuff, okay? So excuse me if it sounds like I'm baby talking everybody here, but you have vehicles that need replaced all the time, okay? You know, what's the average life cycle of a vehicle just for your personal use? That, you know, 5-7 years. I know a vehicle lasts longer than that, but after that you start getting into heavy maintenance. City has police cars, city has fire trucks, and those vehicles get driven a lot more aggressively than the normal, you know, personal car. So you got to rotate the fleets out, okay? So how do I know that Bucyrus is going broke? Bucyrus is doing deferred maintenance on specifically police department and fire department vehicles. So things like ambulances that need to be replaced. Well, when you don't have the money, you just don't buy the new vehicles. You don't put those in the budgets to replace them out. You keep pushing that replacement out further and further. And that's what Bucyrus has been doing for at least the last 3-4 years. Okay, we got a fire engine. The last one they bought, if they wouldn't have bought that, they'd really be in a bad situation. But they bought a new fire engine here in the last 5 years. Well, guess what? They didn't have the cash to buy it. So guess what they did? They financed it. We are paying interest in the city of Bucyrus on a fire engine, okay? A normal planned replacement type item that's known. This isn't like a, oh my God, a fire engine broke and we needed a new one. No, we replaced an older engine. You know this is coming down the pipeline. You know these vehicle replacements are coming. Bucyrus got so bad off financially that we had to go buy a fire engine and get a loan from a bank, okay? And the police cars is gonna be the next thing. Look how many of these police cars, a lot of them, I know they've got a couple newer ones, especially on the, like the Dodge Durango, I think, chassis, but specifically the older Fords, a lot of them was bought in the early 2010s after that first big safety levy passed, you know, the Reeser administration was in. And them fleets are old. They need replaced. Them cars, you know, they might, let's say the car's got 100,000 miles on it. That's city driving. That's equivalent to probably a highway vehicle driving 250,000 miles a year. So we have all these police cars that are needing replaced. Now let's talk about buildings, okay? The city of Bucyrus, I guess City Hall needs a new roof on it. like almost $400,000. So they don't have the money for that. Well, guess what their big plan was? We'll sell the North End Fire Station, which coincidentally I ended up buying. They sold the North End Fire Station so that they could have some money to replace a roof on another building. That's how you know when you're circling the drain. When you start selling real estate to pay for maintenance on other real estate, that's how you know you're really in a bad situation. And that's exactly what's going on with Bucyrus. Bucyrus is broke, and its expenses annually are high to the point where the money that the tax revenue is generating in, it can't do it all, you know. The reason I say we're about $1 million, $500,000 to $1 million behind on annual revenue coming in, is because look at what it would cost to replace all these police cars, fire engine, a ladder, aerial tower that are probably around the $2 million mark to buy a new aerial ladder today. Okay, they're doing street projects now, like South Sandusky, between Beale and probably Southern. They're gonna, it's like a $7 million project. They're gonna take out a loan on it. Okay, Bucyrus is getting too many loans for just everything. That's how they're, it's like we're using a credit card here to make up the gap with this financial shortfall. And you know, I wanted to address the when I first came in 2024, I seen this. I can see what needs replaced, how much money that the city, you can generally estimate how far behind the city is. And I thought, and I'm no longer taking this position, by the way, because there was so much public against it. But my initial reaction was tap into that out-of-town workers tax credit. Well, the public does not want that. They made that loud and clear. The public does not want that. I figured if they took the whole credit, they'd get another $1 million a year. I heard the public. I have changed my stance on that. So what's the other thing you can do? Increase the general overall income tax level. Well, we're already at 2.25%. We tried to have a property tax levy, and I believe it was 2024, later half. The public voted that down. That was specifically for safety forces. So the public is saying no more taxes. Okay? Well, that puts you, if the public's saying no more taxes, you got two other options. You can increase tax revenue through job growth, which that's what you always hear everybody say, oh, we need more jobs, we need more jobs. Or two, you can decrease your outgoing expenses. Well, that's where I think we need to be at, is decrease the outgoing expenses. But that's going to be painful for certain departments. Okay, so what that means is consolidation, like this is what I've been saying here, consolidation with other entities, agencies in the area, okay? But, you know, you're obviously going to have pushback from that with the city unions. Now, here's why I think that's really our only option, because everybody's like, oh, well, we just need all these jobs, so let's just get these jobs. Do you know how many jobs you would actually need to create to generate $1 million more of income tax revenue in Bucyrus? Okay, we're 2.25% income tax. 2.25% income tax. So let's just take a calculator here, okay? So let's say we wanted to generate $1 million in additional income tax revenue through job growth. We take $1 million 1 million divided by 0.0225. That's 2.25%. That is $44 million in payroll expense to generate $1 million in tax revenue. Do you understand how large that number is? $44.4 million in payroll expense. Well, how many jobs is that? Well, let's just divide it by, what do you think the average factory job pays in Bucyrus? $40,000 a year? I have no idea. Let's just divide that out. 44.4 million divided by 40,000. That is 1,100 factory jobs paying $40,000 a year. I got news for everybody. There is no way 1,100 new jobs that pay $40,000 a year are coming to this town anytime soon. Let that sink in. 1,100 factory jobs. It's not going to happen. You might get 100 here or there. Maybe 200 if you're lucky. Where's the other 800? Where's it at? It's not coming. Why would it? You know how long that would take to get that amount of new jobs here? But everybody's like, oh, we got to keep believing that they're coming. We got to keep believing that they're coming. I have been hearing this for over 20 years. That these jobs, we're going to get these jobs, we're going to get these jobs. Guess what? You can't bank on we might get them. Okay? If you're trying to bank on these 1,100 jobs coming to this area and over and over and over every year they don't come, you're no different than the gambling addict at the casinos just playing the house thinking I'm gonna hit it. I'm spending all this money, but I know I'm gonna hit it. I know I'm gonna hit it. I know I'm gonna hit the lottery and get all these jobs here. At some point you gotta wake up to reality. The feasibility that many jobs are coming to this town that is gonna generate that money that we need is not happening. Okay? So every year that you operate a budget thinking, okay, we're gonna hit them jobs next year, we're gonna get them, okay? We're gonna keep everything the same, all these city services we're providing, all this expense in the budget, we're gonna keep it the same because we think we might get these jobs in the next decade or so. Dude, every year this goes on, the city is further and further worse off financially. You have to stop the spending. That's the only way out of this. And nobody wants to stop the spending. I want to stop the spending. I'm trying to tell everybody about this. But nobody wants to believe it. Wake up, people. We're going to have to start consolidating services in the city. In order for, do you want another 0.5% income tax? I know I don't. Because it'd probably take 0.5% to make up for the shortfall that we're currently facing. You want 2.75% income tax in this town. 2.75. At that point, you're up by wherever Columbus and Cleveland is. You might as well go down there and live. At least you have all kinds of better stuff to do. If you're going to be paying that high taxes, you might as well go down there and live. I mean, I don't think the voters are going to swallow another 0.5% income tax. I really don't. The voters have clearly spoken already. So where are we getting the money? Which services do you guys want to consolidate? But you better start having the discussions now, because every year it goes by, we're worse and worse off. Have a nice day.